Invest in a logo, don't invest in a logo, choose these colors, don't choose these colors. Oh my gosh, with so many people giving you all kinds of different advice, how do you know what to create when you are creating your visual identity? In this episode, I'm going to be dropping all of my secrets into creating and designing your aligned visual brand and finally answer, should you invest in a visual brand specifically for you? Welcome to the Savvy Luminary podcast, Astrology for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, creator of the Astrobrand Method, business astrologer, brand designer, author, and fearless boss woman. I help visionary spiritual entrepreneurs and impact makers like you illuminate and amplify your unique star powers so you can be the luminary you were born to be. So in the spirit of Taurus season, I wanted to talk about looking and feeling good to satisfy your sensual pleasure of the visible. Now, I don't often talk about design. I don't know why I kind of hide that one part of my business, but you may know that I have been a web and graphic designer, and my business actually started off as a web and graphic designer since 2004. I don't know why I don't often talk about it. I think I feel a little bit wounded because I remember when I started my business in 2004, this was like right between the dot-com busts. And I was taking a business planning class, and everybody thought that I was crazy to be starting a web design business during the tech crash. And the reason why I wanted to start my web design business was so that I could make some income to support my music career, because I was super into music at that point, but I didn't want to teach anymore and I didn't want to be a starving artist. So I was like, okay, I need to work for myself so that I can have a business that allows me to go to rehearsal whenever I want, work whenever I want, yet allows me to be my own boss and be creative. And so I still do this, yet I don't often talk about this design part. And I am still using astrology when I am using design. So I want to share with you. And so today's episode, I'm going to be talking about all of the mistakes that you could have with just starting off with your visual brand. I'm going to talk about who needs to prioritize creating a visual brand, and those of us who are just using it because, well, we just want to look good. There are exceptions of who needs it versus who wants it. I'm also going to be talking about some design mistakes that you want to avoid when you're creating your visual brand or your logo. I want to give you 5 tips on how to create impactful and energetically aligned visual brands using good design principles. And I'm going to drop my astrology insights. This is the money. This is the money shot in terms of visual design here. And then I'm going to give you a list of the brand visuals that you need to create a comprehensive visual identity that is outside of your logo. So I'd like to start off with a mantra, because design and looks and attractiveness is so unique. What is attractive to you might not be attractive to somebody else, and it doesn't freaking matter. We are here to be attractive in our own right, to love who we are, love the way that we present ourselves. And so today's mantra, as we plant our feet firmly on the ground to receive in abundance, I want you to plant in this seed. I am attractive in my own unique way. I am attractive in my own unique way. Beautiful. So let's talk about creating something that is impressive, attractive, and impactful from a visual standpoint in our business. Sometimes you might call it a logo. Some people might call it a brand. I call it your visual identity. As I was mentioning, our my business, New Moon Creative LLC, has a foundation, has its roots in designing websites and visual brands for women-owned businesses, social impact entrepreneurs, as well as nonprofits, specifically in the education and the AAPI field, so Asian American Pacific Islander fields. And I don't often talk about this. I'm still trying to discern why. Actually, I know why I don't talk about it, because for so long I felt really disengaged from design. Like, I knew I loved creating things beautifully. I knew I had this great aesthetic for design, but I don't have a professional background. Like, I don't have a degree in design. And at one point, actually for a long point in my business, I felt like we were just always guessing. And so I think I might have shared this before, but I have a major, one of my major kryptonites is comparison. And so, especially in design, comparison is so heavy because we are filled with design. We're always looking at people's social media feeds on Instagram saying, oh my gosh, her design is so beautiful. That design is so beautiful. And you probably heard me talk about that, this idea of copying and comparing when we're talking about our branding, but especially in the design part, the visual part, that one comes up so strong. So essentially, since the beginning of my business, I would say for over 15 years, I was caught in this. Like, I loved doing it, I was good at it, but I didn't feel like an expert because I didn't have the pedigree. I didn't have any degrees in design. And I always just felt like I was copying and comparing because I was stuck in this cycle of just always looking at others instead of looking at myself. Yet, when I discovered astrology, everything changed. Like, you might have heard me talk about the story about how when I finally found astrology after kind of going through a breakdown, total burnout. It's like, I can't do design anymore. Like, my clients are not getting the best results. I'm not getting the best results. I don't feel confident in what I'm doing. And then when I finally discovered my astrology chart, because of my background in branding that, I've been practicing for over 10 years, I knew the formulas of branding, but I still felt like we were always guessing. Like, there was never like this real key to say, like, oh no, if you're this kind of person, you need to brand this way. Like, all of those silly, stupid, excuse me, I call stupid the S word. And I just said it. To me, that's like almost worse than swearing for whatever reason. But like all of these like single brand archetypes, oh my gosh, it was so frustrating. And when I looked at an astrology chart, again, from this perspective of branding and the positioning and the values and the communication and the visuals and all, and the expertise and the unique differentiators, when I started applying that from this lens of looking at astrology, I was like, holy smokes, we don't have to guess anymore. We don't have to compare anymore. Here is a clear map of the way a brand needs to feel, of a way a brand needs to sound like, it needs to look like, how it can differentiate itself without copying and comparing. You might already know that our natal charts are like as unique as a fingerprint. There is no one person, even if you're a twin or a triplet, you do not have the same natal chart. There are things that change so quickly. And just like the sequence of the stars and the planets in the sky, there's not going to be a repetition of an exact pattern for like 24,000 years or something like that. Don't ask me the details. I have the big picture. But when I started using astrology in my business for brand design, for web design, and then now using it primarily in my business to guide others in finding their unique differentiating points, I found that my results for my clients were so much more specific, more defined, more impactful. And this is where not only my business started to explode, but then also my ideal clients, the customers that I was designing for. There was no second guessing. It was like we were almost always, like 99% of the time, just getting home runs because we were so clear on what energy needed to be captured from a visual basis. And so recently, I haven't even posted our portfolio. I have barely shared it on Instagram. We have just completed so many wonderful projects in the last year around astrology, working with like just wonderful ideal customers. For example, you heard me talk about Giselle Allen and with her Scorpio rising and how we created her visual brand for her podcast and her program, Revolutionary Rising, for women of color entrepreneurs. And then there's a beautiful Narissa Holder. She is a Libra rising, this wonderful mother of twins, multiracial twins, who started a book publishing firm called Mirror Mirror Books to bring more diversity and equity into children's books so that children could see people that looked like them. I just love how we created her visual brand. So you can go over to Mirror Mirror Books and check out her site. And then we just released, of course, I haven't put it on Instagram. I haven't put anything on Instagram. We just finished a website for a theater production company in San Francisco called Queer Cat Productions. They are a San Francisco-based theater company that creates experiential, consent-forward, accessible, immersive experiences that leave their audiences more connected. I mean, diversity, inclusion, consent, innovation, playfulness. Oh my gosh, it is so amazing to be able to support an organization like that, because I feel like in our own little way, we are elevating their message, and their mission now becomes part of my mission, or my mission becomes part of their mission. It all just gets mixed up, and it's so beautiful. Now, when I wasn't using astrology, like I mentioned earlier, we had a lot of guesswork, especially a lot of second guesswork. Oh my gosh, I just remember this one client who the process was always so drawn out. I would present an idea, and then she would like it, and then she wouldn't like it, and then she would like it, and then we would go off and explore like 500 different examples, and then she would come back to the very first example. And oh my gosh, she did this to me over and over and over again. And I don't know why I just never fired her right at the beginning, because that kind of guessing drives me batshit bananas. Another thing about not using astrology is that we just get okay results. We just get okay results because we tend to err on the side of comfort, error on the side of knowing that something has worked before. So we're not taking any chances, or we're not innovating. We're just kind of getting stuck in past patterns. Similar to guessing, when we're not using astrology, we go through these long cycles of repetition and experimenting, because the guessing process makes things longer, right? Like, I mean, everything in our business is about experimenting, and there's no such thing as like failures. If you're continually learning from something and analyzing and improving, then there's no such thing as failure. But in these long cycles of experimenting, we're guessing. So we're throwing spaghetti on the wall saying, oh, I like this, but oh, that doesn't work. Oh, I like this, but that doesn't work. And then the cycle just extends and extends without getting really pointed, focused results. And then the last part of not using astrology is just we never feel confident. We never know if something was right or something wasn't right, or again, just getting stuck in that place of comparisonitis, because we are not confident in who we are supposed to be and what energy we are trying to capture visually. So, oh my gosh, you can just feel the pain of not knowing and just guessing when we're not using astrology and getting clear insight and creating not only just a brand, but a visual brand. But when we use astrology, the energies are super clear. All the energies that we want to capture, everything is energy, right? So whether it's our planets or our luminaries, even colors, symbols, aspects, harmonies, all of this is energy that I can see in somebody's chart, and I can capture it based on colors and visual symbols. And then, of course, when we start to use astrology, we take chances. We take calculated risks by stretching into potentialities. Instead of falling back on patterns and what's comfortable, we stretch into energies that are the most visible and aligned versus things that just feel safe. And then when we stretch into these potentialities and make these innovations, this is where we create impact and impactful visual brands that don't look like other brands, that just look like you. I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine had bought me this orange scarf. And it was this beautiful material. It was kind of orange, and it had multi kind of colors of orange and yellow and red, depending on the way that you looked at it. And I thought it was so beautiful. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would never have picked that for myself. I'd never picked orange for myself or worn orange. And then once I put that scarf on, she had somehow seen that in me, that I would look good in orange. And when I put that scarf on, it was like, whoa, like all of a sudden I started to glow. My colors came out. Interestingly enough, as a Gemini rising, orange is one of those aligned colors that we are meant to stretch into. I would have never picked that orange. I would have chose safe colors like blue and black and gray so that I wouldn't stick out and I would just blend in. But that's what our visual brand is about. We don't want to blend in. We want to make impact and be impressionable. So when we start to use astrology, this gives us the substance and the foundation of the brand archetypes and energies that we need to capture, like those feelings. That is the structure and the basis of our brand. And then, of course, astrology gives us the specific energies to capture visually through aligned colors that best represent us and our business. No more guessing, no more going with the trends, no more relying on comfort, no more copying. So, I want to share with you some of the mistakes that I see with clients in their visual brand. So, mistake number one, starting off with your visual brand. Now, I've had so many clients come to me saying, hey, I'm starting a business and I need a logo right now before I can get started. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. Okay, well, what visuals do we need? What is the concept of your brand? What are you offering? What is the value? How are you uniquely positioned? Who are your ideal customers? And people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, well, a visual brand isn't just some kind of like decoration that you put on your website, or like a sticker on your car, like just a logo. A visual brand is the identity of your business. It is a symbol of the face of your business, a symbol of everything that your business represents. And so, our visual brand, while it is the tip of the iceberg and it is the most visible part, it is nowhere near the most important part. At the foundation of our brand, we have our brand vision. And our brand vision is so that we can position and differentiate our brand from all of the other people that do what you do. So whether you're a coach or you're a lawyer or you're another astrologer, whatever you are, there's a lot of you. But there is no one like you that does what you do with your particular expertise, with your particular unique solution that serves a particular type of customer who is struggling with a particular thing, who has particular aspirations that get specific results that only you can give. And so you can see that our brand vision, that position, that carves out that space in the field, in your industry for you, differentiates you from all of the others. So to get that really clear is the first step, your brand vision. Can we use astrology for that? You betcha. That astrology is so good at aligning your brand vision. After you get your brand vision, then we start to add another layer to your brand. And the next layer is your brand values, because now your brand values start to connect you to your soul customers and fans based on shared values, based on your why and your purpose and your social impact, the change that you want to see in the world, the vision that you have in the future, and the mission of like why you do what you do. It's these brand values that are based on your vision that really connect to your soul customers that are saying, oh my gosh, she is the person that I need to work with. It almost doesn't even matter what you do if sometimes those values are so strong. I've had so many customers who just feel my energy and who know my values, and they're like, I don't know why, but I have this feeling that I need to work with you. once you understand your brand values, this is when you start to build your brand voice. If you've ever worked with a copywriter or anybody who's doing communications or marketing, if you don't have your brand values dialed in, if you don't have your brand vision dialed in, you will never find your brand voice, because your brand voice is there to then share and contribute information. This is your brand personality, your core messaging, your marketing copy, your sales copying, all of the things that have to do with communications. And then once you have what you want to say based on your brand values, based on your brand vision, then you can then put together your brand visuals to impress. And your brand visuals, your visual identity might include your logo. It could include your font families. It could include colors, images, photography, and all of that. Now, if you're starting with your brand visuals first, you are likely making a mistake because you don't have all of the information, that foundational information that you need to create a brand visual that captures exactly what you're doing. Now, there is an exception to that rule. So you might have heard different business experts, you'll have some experts say, you need a memorable visual brand. And then you'll have some other business experts say, don't waste money on a visual brand. Don't spend money on an expensive visual brand. You don't need one. Now, how do you know? How do you know if you really need a visual brand, if you need it versus you want one? Well, astrology is your key. So if you have a strong Venus, so Venus is the ruler of both Taurus and Libra. And so if you have strong Venus, so meaning if you have your sun or your rising sign or your midheaven in Taurus or Libra, that would indicate you have strong Venus. Also, if you have Venus at your midheaven or Venus in your first house near your rising sign, that would also indicate you have a very potent Venus. In the event that you have a potent, strong Venus, you need a strong visual brand. You are the exception to the rule that says, hey, I need a visual brand before I start my business, before I understand my value. It's akin to you needing to have like that perfect outfit, even if you're just going to go out to go grocery shopping, because you need to look good thanks to your strong Venus. So again, if you have Libra or Taurus rising, or you have it on your midheaven, or you have Venus near your rising sign or your midheaven, you need to look good before you can feel confident to do good. So let's take a look at some design mistakes that you want to avoid while creating your visual brand. So like I mentioned already before, starting with your visual brand, unless you have a strong Venus, would be mistake number one. Mistake number two that I see people making with their visual brand is that they put too many expectations into their logo design, meaning that they want a symbol to capture everything. And when this happens, it's like logos get too detailed, they lack integrity. And this integrity part is really important because you might be looking at your logo on your mobile phone, or it could be just a little icon. You might not always be seeing your logo really big. And so looking at your logo from very small sizes to really big sizes to see if it keeps its integrity. Does it still look good at every size? And so if you have too many details in your logo, your symbol, you will lose that integrity. And so how do you remove some expectations? Yes, you want a symbol that is memorable, that is unique, that captures your visual identity, but really don't put too many expectations. If you look at my logo for New Moon Creative, it is simply a circle, a black circle. Now, if you look at my logo, I hear people tell me how much they love my logo and they love how clever I was with interchanging the C's and the O's to make little crescents. And then I have literally a black circle in the middle to represent the new moon. I mean, how much more basic can that be? I love my logo and I hope you do too. So don't put too many expectations hoping that your logo is going to cover everything. Just like when you put your outfit on, you can't show people everything that you do by just a simple outfit. Now, another mistake that I see in design for people with their logos is that thinking that their logo has to define everything in their brand. Meaning, similar to putting all those expectations in, these are now emotional expectations. Instead of just visual, practical expectations, these are emotional expectations, where this starts to now lead to unrealistic expectations, where they can't view the visual brand from with perspective. They get so caught up in their emotions, saying like it has to like I need to love it. And you know what? Yes, I definitely want you to love your logo. But if you have um, invested so much of your emotional energy into that logo, guess what? Your expectations will never be met. And so just be a little bit cautious and discern if you feel yourself getting really attached, like you're going through designer over designer and nobody's ever capturing exactly what you want. Maybe it's time to take a step back, get clear on your brand vision, get clear on your brand values, and see if you can come back to it with a fresh perspective and not put so many expectations into it. Design mistake number 3, being too trendy. Oh my gosh, I am so over all of this script handwriting. I was over it. I was over it before a few years ago when it was starting to come out. I just personally, for me, anytime that something is too trendy, I start to hate it. Now, except for moons and astrology things, because I realize that is also very trendy right now. I've always loved astrology. That is timeless for me. So remember to have a brand that is just like not following trends, but it has this quality of timelessness that it can grow with you. Think of like brands like Hermes, Clinique, Louis Vuitton. Have they ever changed their visual brand? No. A design mistake that I've talked about a little bit earlier was choosing designs that you're super comfortable with. What I notice with people is that if left to their own devices and them not wanting to stretch into their potential, people will almost always choose a logo based on their moon sign because their moon sign is this place of emotional security. And while emotional security is very important in our brand because it allows us to make decisions based on faith instead of fear, we have to stretch past all of these like karmic soul patterns and stretch into our soul's potential. That, just like my orange scarf example, initially you may not choose it, but then you're really going to take to it. And I'm going to give you those visual keys in just a bit. And then, of course, the last mistake I see people doing is continually changing their visual brand without there being an actual shift in their business. Again, I get a number of calls saying, "Hey, I need to rebrand my business. I need a new logo." And I was like, "Well, what's changed in my business?" "Oh, nothing. I'm just tired of this logo." Well, I would really seek to understand a little bit more. I would highly suggest not just changing your logo because you're tired of it. Now, if you've pivoted in your business and things are different, then for sure, starting with your new brand vision is going to be very important to inform your new visual brand. Okay, now I'm going to drop off the 2 secrets to aligning your visual design with your astrological keys. The 2 most visible parts of your natal chart are your rising sign, that is the leader that you're meant to be, and your midheaven, which is kind of like your transmitter, that kind of first impressions, and it relays your ultimate mission. So the energies that you have around your rising sign and your midheaven, including those archetypal energies of your rising and your midheaven, are the energies that you want to capture on a visual basis. So you can always look up color palettes. They have those colors in Canva, or you can even just search up like Aquarius color palettes and you'll have this whole assortment. For me personally, I like to go to the base color from the color wheel and look at what that base color of that sign is. If you have Venus close there, you might brighten it up or make it more pastel. If you have Saturn there, you might darken it up. If you have Pluto there, you might intensify it. There's all kinds of visual keys that get really clear with the colors that you are meant to have. And then, of course, the symbols. The symbols are just icons and visual representations of these archetypal energies. So earlier today, I was working with a client and choosing symbols, and she was really drawn to the moon. And I mean, who isn't drawn to the moon? But with her Aquarius rising, I was was urging her to stretch a little bit into that water bearer, the vessel, the chalice that holds the water of knowledge. There was so much more specificity and mobility that she could create in her logo by not relaying, just not lying back and being in the comfort of moon, but then pushing herself forward into Aquarius archetype. All right. And now your visual brand doesn't just have to be a logo. You do not just need a logo. A visual brand to me is a suite of identity collaterals, from your font families and pairings to really great photos. So from headshots to lifestyle shots to stock photos. If you have just a set budget for investing in your visual brand, as a web designer and a logo designer, I am telling you to invest in professional photos. Spend your money there. Those photos will take you further, because you can have your visual brand just from your fonts, just from your colors, just from basic, simple patterns and symbols and textures that you can find at stock photo places instead of creating custom. Now, if you really, really, really want a logo and you really, really, really need a logo because of your strong Venus, then definitely there's lots of places that you can go to find stock symbols, or you can always hire a professional like me that will illustrate a beautifully aligned, unique design just for you. So I hope you found this kind of deep dive into all of the things of visual brand for this Taurus season, where looking good enables us to feel good. I loved sharing kind of my secrets that I take into visual design and showing how you can stop guessing and create an aligned, energetic visual brand for your business based on your astrology. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a rating and review on Apple iTunes.